Hello. Tashi Dalai Rinpoche, homage to Garchen Rinpoche, long life Garchen Rinpoche. And today, so very auspicious day. We have a really good opportunity to receive Heart Sutra teaching from His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche. Heart Sutra teaching, the when Buddha Shakyamuni be in the meditation samadhi, and then Chinreze is a Sambhonakaya form received through the Heart Sutra. Buddha Shakyamuni in samadhi meditation, Chinreze receiving from Buddha Shakyamuni. Then Chinreze sharing this teaching to Shariputra. So His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche is embodiment of Chinreze. So we have this good opportunity. We are really fortunate directly receiving Heart Sutra from Chinreze embodiment of Garchen Rinpoche. So then today, so all who joined this Zoom and participating, everyone welcome. And we hosting by Digong Dharma Syria Center. So we, behalf of Digong Dharma Syria, everyone, please, very happy to welcome. And thanks very much all these organizers together and this teaching. So now I'm going to chant the, before Garchen Rinpoche is going to share the Heart Sutra, I'm going to chant opening prayer. Please, can you share the opening prayer screen? Thanks. All other sentient beings, limitless as a space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstacles who harm me, and those create obstacles on my path to liberation and damnations. May they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and safely may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstacles who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be free from suffering and safely. May they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. Dala dangwara zebe da, nobara zebe ge, torba dang dam jen jembe, barda ju bara zeba dam je je zor zebe, mananka dan yambe zemjen dam je dewa dang ding, dongara dang jar nyorda lana me ba yang da bara zobe zanjo rumbo je, gobar zang. For purpose until I attain Buddhahood, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Until death, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. From today until this time tomorrow, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Heye jida sangma je je barde lenga ye song ge wa la go ma ye barde lenga ye song ge wa la go je sangma shara je barde lenga ye song ge wa la go. I take refuge in the Buddha until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and the example of the Bodhisattvas, just as Buddhas of the past, giving rise to bodhicitta and the progress along the Bodhisattva's path. So shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stage of the Bodhisattva's path. Sanjo Nimbo Jije Bar Sanje Namlai Jabzen Je Shudan Sanjo Zamba Ye Solan De Yin Jabzen Je Jedan Pinze De Je Je Sanjo Dongne Jiba Dang Sanjo Sembe La Ba La De Dar Ren Yen Ne Ba Dar De yin ro la ben dong de san jiu sen ne ji jie xin. De yin de ne la ba la ren ba yin de la ba re jie. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Example by the merit of generosity and other good deeds. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Example by the merit of generosity and other good deeds. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Sanje Jidan Zojin Jonam Lai Sanjo Barde Dane Jabzen Je Dage Jin So Jibe Sonam Ji Rola Pensar Sanje Bar Sho. Next page. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have a happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering, the causes of suffering. May they never be separate from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have a happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separate from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May the rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Mananga dan yambe semjen damje dewa dan deve jodan dembara jorje dongara dan dongara jodan trawara jorje dongara mebe dewa dan mandrawa jorje nyering chadang nyedang dar tanyon seme bala nebara jorje. Completely liberated from the bonds of rare and unrare, transcending the name and the attributes of arising, cessation, and habiting, coming and going, affirmation and dinner, The spirit mandala is the nature state. By offering it, may I be blessed to attain the state of Buddhahood. Om Guru Devanda Kene Rina Mandala Padisa Soha. Next page. Please stand aware of the Dharma of greater and lesser vehicles and the teachings common to both according to disposition and the mental capacity of sentient beings. Semjin Namje Samba Tam Ye Seda Jeta War Chujung Kolo Kodo So.
Ubodu Jeje Ma, Tanjin Master Babo, so now they have the Yorana. Taquato Chata, giving his own illusion, Jodo, Chojo, Zantalo, Ronne, Trover, Lamiano, Pasala, have the vision that the mind. Genulo Yonchong, Doja Jelena, Mama, Chuja, Mama, Pama, to Wajan, Dombo, the Lama. So the woman she can young on it as I can. I seem to got most of those about the Lamajolo on the Asana, I shouldn't see. Yeah, told me about Joan Gilas or something, than just the Danchina. Somebody children in the thought so. I could go about like she's there as an eater. That helped me, we got to go on the way. Yeah, Rinjai. She had been more, she had the powers of a Dutch of Tom Savory. They came to see on Tom Jones, she had no catches. Nature a long lot of a day, dead or mother's way. She had no Tom Savory. That dear, so young thing, she young thing, check that. Check a shade, say she has not got to rely on the jury. They say, you're not actually body or Tada. She had no return in Mambore. Yena tani da ngaki yalla meshiji yajana meshi meshiji yoyo gore ne mare meshiji ne shigi yore ngone de sembi de logre je mala peso ne lok to paro ne shira sa lo me so ngore sembi de lo kona re de saja chi bongo so da che kwa no ma testa sa mo tan yore rando sembi de lo re ji ba yo mare sembi de lo te mune ha kwa shira de paro de samba so 대형 동원이 좀 되다더라디 나사게 미시라 바로세서 나사게 미제다 사자 준비동 사자 좀 싸움을 봐 요즘에 봐 이제 시작해요래 제 생문내로 되는 마치면 가나 그런 거니서 너는 책 동가리 셈 남가 나오래지 시작도 바로서만 남가다 오래지 제가 제 가리 지금 저 산지 아마다를 해지 사지 탐지 사지 세계가 아마다 차들이 영치 모여서 자다고서 집은 마저를 말을 그래 되게 염지 어떤 폰데니아들이 셈을 적용해서 셈들이 심지어 저 말에 되었는지 들이 되나 좀 잡이 염지는 제 내록도 좀 잡이 염시 봐지 그 내록대 또 사지형 때리 이봐요 말이지 내록 맞도 내가 들쳐는 차원다운 코아로 차로 열이 저는 코데이가 이제 메르들이 좀 잡이를 상차가 어디 오 코아데 심지서 심지 말이 심지 삼체 사제진 뭐지 저는 차원다운 심지문에서 요 말에 대외는 좀 잡이를 청사로서 영체모도 말했지
And Ashidele to all my Dharma friends. And today I'm going to give a teaching on the Heart Sutra, as it was requested of you. And so in general, the Heart Sutra speaks of the perfection of wisdom. And the meaning of the perfection of wisdom is very profound and vast. And now we only have a short time to speak about the Heart Sutra, although its essence is so vast. So it more becomes like a transmission, because the essence itself is extremely profound. I'm lacking the required learning, and I will just explain it in a few words according to all of your requests. And then for a more elaborate explanation, you have Ken Rinpoche who can explain that to you. So there is a lot of meaning to the Heart Sutra. And now saying that I don't know so much, on the other hand, it is not that I do not know the meaning of the Heart Sutra, because all of that, the perfection of wisdom really speaks about is the nature of the mind. Milarepa had said that aside from realizing the natural state of the mind, there is no other perfection of wisdom than that. So we are only speaking about the nature of mind when we speak about the perfection of wisdom. And we should understand it to be the nature of Mahamudra. So it's nothing else but the nature of our mind. If you really understand the nature of your own mind, that is called the perfection of wisdom. And so it begins with its name of the imperfection of wisdom that is inexpressible and inconceivable, or it is beyond word and thought. And that is the meaning of Mahamudra. It cannot be expressed in words or thought. And we always mention that. So it is the actual nature of the mind. And so the title of the Heart Sutra, it begins with the unborn, the perfection of wisdom, the unborn, unobstructed, the essence of the space realm of self-aware primordial wisdom, the self-aware primordial wisdom mother. And everything is actually, the entire meaning is contained within these words. So the space realm. The perfection of wisdom is like space. The nature of your mind is like space. And then the primordial wisdom mother of the victors of the three times, that is the Prajna Paramita. She is the mother of all the Buddhas of the three times. So the mother of all Buddhas and the mother of all sentient beings. So that is why she is referred to as the Great Mother. The mother that is beyond birth and unobstructed. So that is called the Great Prajna Paramita Mother. She is the basis of samsara and nirvana. And that basis is the mind. The mind is what has created all of samsara and nirvana. So she is the mother of all beings and of all the Buddhas. And when you realize the nature of your mind, that is Buddha and nothing else. There is no other Buddha. And if you do not realize the nature of the mind, then for the time being, the mind is just like water that has frozen into ice. So you wander in samsara. But still, that same mind is the basis of both samsara and nirvana. So the text begins with this homage, a prostrate to the primordial wisdom mother of the victors of the three times and also of all sentient beings. So she is the mother of sentient beings and Buddhas. And actually, in reality, there are no real sentient beings. So what we call samsara does not really actually exist, because all sentient beings possess the essence of Buddhahood. It is just that temporarily, it is like they are like ice, water that has frozen into ice, but there are no really existing sentient beings. So the text begins with this homage, which is a praise to the Great Mother.
첫 공만 뒤는 동구요에 나타나 미시라 말씀이잖아. 이 사자치 뭐지 동물이 제 사자치 뭐 막람지 이게 그 민성제 이런 진짜 동물에서 소소랑 그 이식을 봤어. 소소랑 내들 소소랑 그 생각 내롭게 따와진 통소나 저는 혼대 당시에 동쪽와요 하고 두고요. 저 지들은 시간도 팔았으면 동사만 지면 소소랑 내려오지 가지고 또나 저는 사실 좀 이제야 신진한 상태니도 거기서 동들이 그 제만을 위해서 제만을 위해 가려서 란드 내lok도는 된 sep지 sab지 사제인 바 남시 실을 별로 된 sep지 sab지 사제 뭐 하고 저들이 제하 방어 태통로리 참에 sep지 사제이잖아 남산 고토가 말이지 란드 내lok도 정말 되게 엄마들이 그게 좀 잡히기 말할 것송 절대적과 진연이 이시치봉 감정랑 정도 야예나 노력 대책인 거지 이시치봉 오토베데 샘팅 탐지 샘용을 샘게 대책인 거리 대하고 뭐 샘팅 탐지 사제절랑지 문제를 이시치에서 그래 제주자 시합도 팔아서 막 나그 샘고 내로 양다와 또 대시합도 팔아서 저가 대래서 소소랑 이시치에 봐서 랑 내로제 가지 또나 대시합도 팔아서 생각해서 책 때문에 있냐는 되어요.
So the entire meaning of the Heart Sutra is really contained in just these, the opening, the title of the text. And it is the meaning of Mahamudra. So it is the nature of mind, or Mahamudra is not, it says it's the essence of the space realm. So it's not something that can be expressed by words or thoughts. So it is the space realm of self-aware primordial wisdom. So this self-aware primordial wisdom means that when you see the nature of your own mind really as it is, then you will understand the nature of all of samsara and nirvana. And actually, that is shown by just these few words. The entire meaning of the Heart Sutra is included in these words. So whenever you realize the nature of your mind, then you have attained the perfection of wisdom. The Buddha himself had said, all sentient beings are actually Buddhas. And also Milarepa had said that when you realize the nature of the mind, you realize that all beings are actually Buddhas. And that is when the ordinary consciousness becomes primordial wisdom. And until we know that, if we don't really understand that, all those who don't really understand that will have doubts about this fact of that all sentient beings are Buddhas. They will not be able to immediately understand that. So you only really understand that when you realize the nature of your own mind. Khenpo Tsultrim Gyamtso had condensed, put together some songs of Milarepa, where that is explained. And then also it is said that within the vastness of primordial awareness, is the boundless palace of the three realms. And in the center of this boundless palace dwells the Buddha essence, the Buddha nature. So that is an introduction to one's true nature. All sentient beings possess a mind, and therefore they, within them, in the depths of their being, there is Buddha essence, Buddha nature. So that is why when you understand that, you can understand, that you can trust that all sentient beings really are Buddhas. So the perfection of wisdom is when you realize the nature of your mind in an authentic way, really as it is. So whenever you realize that, you have attained the perfection of wisdom. And everything is really contained within just these this one line here in the opening that says it is the space realm of self-aware primordial wisdom.
지야 가래지는지 조열시바지 디 생그 내로 하고 송라 라리 소디면은 송만하지 저다 나와 담저랑 그 셈지 나와 샘스 타제 샘지 도말 타 조선들이 롬도도 거진 감지와데 탐지라는 샘스 시이제 대도 시트고요. 대를 따고 나와 저는 따고 그 당신은 다들은 잘로요. 따고 제가 대를 잘 모래. 마다 봐라 니지용의 대 마음이라 메이다 마음이지만 신소니라 마음이 배신소데 사용 두고 요 말들이 좋은 거 통요 말이 돌아도요. 매도 사운이나这个到上去，每年没到用的不怎么多节约的，哦，这到不错什么的，他们让你做什么，打没到的别人上的了，上节的了，哦，那个谁的了，没到有的不怎么多用的，马面没到上的拖拉着有的，那个我说没的马面七八里面上节给有嘛的，这个的没做的这大国健康，各大健康，才可有什么，刚也是。这不知道这送没来问过这样送的，哦，如这些人不现实，这下搞什么？刚就这叫也刚是说到多叫也当不拉稀，这道谁叫去年安是，哦，这道当中国的，哦，这两个现在名这道中国的。马面我说罗尔就是那个罗尔吃不完的，上去种的有罗尔吃不吃嘛？有什么？我们讲罗尔吃没得，罗尔吃嘛的这里，那个牛毛王啊的，牛毛王啊这点是碰不着下，这里这里碰不啊，这里是我这找不着罗尔着下，那个吃人炒不着下，真好啊下的，这不是这叫讲通过的，农业讲通过有的。我炒肉的嘛，我是没有，别介绍稀松了。这里一些主要的，这个我说大地就是主要，这大地有个大多少都那玩家有个有的，民众的大一些主要是吧？长期一些的变了民众的，变了没能提前先配的送吧的，那这送上啊出个案子，各大一些的官家没把送，我那我拉着往下这个，长期也讲的，在这当地这里。通过这当通这个有的，这讲里的学工子他们入到有了，学工子他们的马上我都下过嘛，然后生活人，学工当中生南瓜的，然后生活学工这样，我七八没把这道的查了，全部第六个晓得跑到什么这一面，就是这道的什么的通用的呢，每当马面个七八的，也得到过那种我那说呢，然后现在第六个这你人家上街的。然后甚至人说上街也是，马上就经过人家那个条路到加送了，这也送过去，说人的是就把送了，甚至都搞的从那里大不清看，通都不这送嘛的，这种敌人呢，东西们都有的是。
So this realm of self-aware primordial wisdom, of primordial wisdom. So what is this realm? So for example, a realm is, for example, America. We all see this as our country. And then within that, you have your own environment, your surrounding, your own house, your worldly towns and so on. So that is one's own like sphere of existence or one's own realm. And so what about the realm of primordial wisdom? How does that arise, appear? It is when you realize the nature of the mind. In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it says, appearances are one's own mind. And also it is said, first, you must resolve that appearances are mind, and then that mind itself is emptiness. And when you realize that, when you understand the nature of your mind, then the Sambhogakaya pure lands and the pure forms will begin to manifest. So when your perception becomes pure, then your surrounding arises as a pure land and pure forms, pure beings. As long as our perception is impure due to dualistic grasping, the mind is in an immature, unripe state. So that's the only difference. For example, it is just like a piece of fruit that is ripe or unripe. If it is unripe, then you can't eat it. You also can't sell it. It's basically a waste. or it's just like the seed of a flower. When the seed of a flower ripens, then all the perfect qualities of the flower will mature, will become manifest. And so when we first take refuge in the three jewels and then enter the path of skillful means, then we attain enlightenment, which is just like the seed of a flower ripening into a flower. And then all the perfect qualities of enlightenment will manifest. For as long as the seed does not ripen, if it remains in this unripe state, it is like a spoiled seed. But the only difference is ripe or unripe. And so that's the only difference between Buddhas and sentient beings. So when the mind matures, then the various pure lands, the surrounding will manifest as a pure land. So in Khenpo Tsultrim Gyaltse's collection of Milarepa songs, he also makes a reference to the Buddha nature that endows all sentient beings in the 6 realms of samsara. And then it says there, so when you understand this, when you understand Buddha nature, wherever you go is a boundless palace. Whoever you meet is a Yidam deity. Whatever is done within the sphere of Dharmata. So this is how you will then perceive everything when you see the nature of the mind, when the mind has matured. And when the mind is still in an immature, unripened state, then temporarily, due to being confused, the 6 realms of samsara will manifest. However, the Buddha had said, when he said all beings are actually Buddhas, he also said, however, beings are obscured by adventitious stains. So there are obscurations. And these obscurations are the 5 afflictive emotions. And these make us perceive the 5 aggregates in a confused way. And that leads to the manifestation of the 6 realms of samsara. And this is similar to ice or water having frozen into ice temporarily. So as long as we have an impure samsaric perception, all we can perceive is just suffering and misery. That is, as long as the ice has not melted, all we can experience is suffering. So that is the realm of self-grasping. The realm of self-grasping are the 6 realms of samsara. And then there is the realm, the space realm of primordial wisdom. And that is experienced when the mind has matured. Then you experience the realm of primordial wisdom. For example, Minling Chichen had said just the moment before he passed into nirvana, he said that all appearances are the deity, all sound is the mantra, and all rising thoughts are the play of primordial awareness or of Dharmata. And all appearances, our form arises as the form of primordial awareness. And so this is how, and then he passed away. And so this is how these great beings, great masters are seeing things. All forms as the deity and all sounds as the mantra and all thoughts as primordial wisdom. So it is just like you have a crystal ball and all the qualities are included within it, but for as long as it is covered up, you cannot really see its brilliance. But once it is opened up, you can see the sky and everything reflected within it. And so that is when you recognize the nature of your own mind, or it is called the perfection of wisdom. And then all the qualities already inherent in your mind will reveal themselves. So the only difference is maturing or not maturing. In the Samantabhadra prayer, it says, when you recognize the nature of your mind, you are a Buddha. Not recognizing it, you are a sentient being wandering in samsara. So that is temporarily, you are like a block of ice. Or if you're a Buddha, then you move through the realm of primordial wisdom. So whenever you see the nature of the mind, you will see the Pure Lens. So actually a lot of profound meaning, again, is included within these few words.
Then Gelong get with the Sanjok to begin Yore, then Konama Jet and Kon Drama Namaway, ordinary Nintuga Sanjok to begin with Yore, Sanjok to begin with Jibati, and into you get with dinner. Oh, Chin Sanjay Song Dongte, Tikong the quarter of that, Nintu, oh, Chin Chisong, the Nintuga get the 상천스럽게 되는 이제 로 파스 상이 있으면 시 찾는 동코 탑에 봐 차들래 그래서 족스럽게 되는지 상천스럽게 되는 단 예르세 지제데 자영 산업도 지내지 대 삼절에 저 까드는 거는 지내지 그들이 있으면 왜 하고데 저 트와트리가 찾더니 사제가 두줄 거를 샤이버게 지내를 지와래 지내더니 샤이버게 되는 권인지 가로 Rich book on a terrible part of some Tagun Kanita or the tree. The selling she loved the part of the mother. Rich put a woman you have a touch over it. Oh, such a distinct more touch over it. They called the Chibana. Sancho of a getting Shibati, Tata name the long term Bangadi. Name about woman to the yen. 여기 바닥과 유년 콜로 또방이 봐 도진창 축이 봐 특방 맞아 콜이 봐 세계상 속선바 동고 탑에 돼 봐지 동당은에 대해 상속선바 예외세기 기와데 사제에서 예매 봐 차대요 내가 들서가 방들이 특바랑 롤고도를 들들이 이제 저기 봐 왕고랑 내가 타고 집안을 내게 뭐 저거 지다는 게 Tani shari book, Artin, oh, Ricky Pocket, Ricky Pocket, Shab, Shab, Padazota, Carita, was there, Ricky Pocket, Ricky Pumo touch already, said the Ricky Brown, Ricky Pumo, Shab, Padasma, Jabano, that never saw the. This on the teaching did that, or that Mato was a meeting did that. Top Pongo need the song. Did that was a don't get it. Pongo out at the Nang Sapombo, Terras wasn't in jail. There Nang Yumong the Torson, she got darling mean over Mamina, did that on the Commission Commission on Michabando, did it on the treaty, Pongo is awesome. Mato was a Pongo the thousands of water be a double jaggery, doesn't number the dandy, no coming over it. Take it in our number. Gamma the Tatama Dodo Chano, the Dandy Utama, the Dati, the no coming to Tamanjaru or the Petin. Now, Yamanji could do it. This is the second body. Pongo the men down in it, Musa Mata was don't inside it. Semi Pongo, semi oh, this emeritus, whom I saw you as the seminary or is. Then on the sunny or marriage. Then the Pongo was Mambo the Ponga body. True now and about Dodo the top of your money. Said really the Dodo the top of your money. Now similar Dodo the Saturday with this baby she did. You look quality. Top your money. They have one of these have the part of some mason. Three teenagers have the part of some that he did. Pumong about the Zala or Ragi thought that must also come get on the say make that not a killer that was a Yuri or the Tory Yuri. Just as the Ragi Dana, some same rate. Oh, look what the woman boy was and you go in nothing there and what the tea. So you're a chap, then she did for child or didn't quarter your race. So how long to what's something? That's all my age.
So then after the title is after the setting of the scene. And so the scene was at a time when the Buddha was alive and he was staying in Vulture Peak in Rajgriha. So he was together with an assembly of monks and an assembly of bodhisattvas. So the Buddha had a manifold retinue. There was Sangha consisting of Gelong monks, and there were the Bodhisattva Sangha. There's different Sangha divisions. We also speak about the four classes of Sangha. But in brief, we can say there were the Hira or Shravaka Sangha and the Bodhisattva Sangha. The Hira or Shravaka Sangha are called hearers because they listen to the Buddha's teachings and they are able to understand the meaning of all these words. So they are called hearers or Shravakas. And then there were the Bodhisattva, there was the Bodhisattva Sangha. And the Bodhisattvas were those who had completely cleared away all dualistic grasping. And so they dwelt within the state of non-duality. There were different bodhisattvas surrounding the Buddhas. Mainly there were the 8 close sons, bodhisattva sons of the Buddha. For example, there were Manjushri, Vajrapani, Chenrezig, and so forth. And so here it is Chenrezig answering a question of Shariputra. And so Chenrezig is a bodhisattva who had already realized non-duality. So his mind was really non-dual with the mind of the Buddha. So the Buddha dwelt in a state of samadhi, while Chenrezig explained to Shariputra the perfection of wisdom. And so so Shariputra then asks Chenrezig, so how should a noble son or a noble daughter train who wishes to engage in the profound activities of the perfection of wisdom? So that was the question put forth. And Chenrezig then responded that a noble son or daughter who wishes to engage in the profound activities of the perfection of wisdom should consider thusly. And then he continues to explain the empty nature of the 5 aggregates and so forth. First, the point being made in the very beginning is that it's not just the noble sons who can recognize the perfection of wisdom, but also the noble daughters, meaning that everyone can realize the perfection of wisdom because everyone possesses Buddha nature. And so within the Bodhisattva assembly, there is no distinction between like daughters and sons. And the difference between the ordinary retinue and the Bodhisattva retinue is that the Bodhisattva retinue were those who had actualized the 5 certainties of a Sambhogakaya. So there is the certainty of the place, and that is the Dharmadhatu Ram of Akanishta. Then there is the certainty of time, that is the ever-turning wheel of time. Then there is the certainty of the teacher, that is Vajradhara. Then there is the certainty of the Dharma, which is only the Mahayana teachings. And then there is the certainty of the retinue, which is the bodhisattvas on the higher levels. So, for example, those 8 close bodhisattva sons who were all indivisible from the Buddha himself. And only temporarily they appeared in the form of the retinue as a disciple in order to tame sentient beings. And so that is because sentient beings have different mental capacities, higher, middling, and lower. And therefore, there are different methods of teaching or taming them. But although there is a temporary difference when it comes to their Buddha nature, they are all one and the same. So in any case, Shariputra asked the question, so how should one understand the perfection of wisdom? And so then Chenrezig continued in his answer on explaining the empty nature of the first the 5 aggregates. So he says that the 5 aggregates are devoid of self-nature. In the Chakra-samvara practice, for example, it is also said that so on the outer level, there are the 5 aggregates. On the inner level are the 5 afflictive emotions. And when the afflictive emotions become liberated, one ripens into the 5 kinds of wisdom, or one matures into the 5 Buddhas, the 5 Buddha families. For as long as one is immature, one is like this immature piece of fruit that we mentioned before. So regarding the 5 aggregates, those sentient beings who have not realized the nature of their mind, so immature sentient beings, and they grasp at their body. So they hold on to their body and perceive it as the me, that's me, I'm this body. And so this self-grasping is like a magnet that pulls all the different parts together that then create this perception of a me, an existing I. So that there seems to be this solidly existing entity that is an I. And so not the fact that we call ourselves this me, there's this sound that is this word, we say this is me, then that is a sign of self-grasping. So self-grasping is like this magnet that attracts, that pulls together the different aggregates. And actually, none of them inherently exist. It is just like a pile of sand, for example. It is here today, it seems to be really there, but tomorrow it's already gone. So an aggregate is something that consists of many parts. And the I, although it seems like this one solid entity, this one solid being, actually that cannot be found. And so this is what Chenrezig explains here. Ultimately, we come back to the mind. We can't find the self in our body. And then when we look at the mind is also non-dual, non-dual primordial awareness. So actually, the more we try to find the I, there's nothing to be found, nothing to be attained. And realizing that is the perfection of wisdom. So Chenrezig explains the empty nature of these 5 aggregates and how everything is empty. How there's no eyes and no ears, no nose, no tongue, and so on. So now we think that all of these sense perceptions are real. Each sense door has its own kind of perception or sensation it experiences. But actually, ultimately, it all is one mind. So it is the consciousness that's moving around through the different sense doors in the body like a monkey, and exiting through the different doors, perceiving different things. But it's one consciousness. But it is not perceived that way for as long as the mind is like a piece of frozen ice.
This is all I can do. To die on Tadakazo, Tadakazo, Tobiayo money, Nabanatana, and Tamaki, too many. You must me, my rules are Tapa Majinsi. May I must have kicked on my son 7 days old summer days away. That you want to neighbor my chap, me, but Madame Yat. Sort of walk in a day, chat, Pachaki job, down with the Taki job. 총산이 제사의 차당기 총산을 해도이 차대 제일 시 박차요 제일 시디 저거 저번에 저 박차만고 박차 도고 림지대에서 그나마나 송안 지 박차디 자대 양자 차는 들이만 뭐네 달래 가지는 도요래 문이 세무들이 다다 대탑이 마더바치는 들이 다다다들이 또 많이 마더바리 야다 적동선 적디가리 산 상을 용도래 가요리 메타단 걸 적가로 대리리 딱 제가 오 당나와냐 봐 너도 좀 없이 다 세메디 다 세면 무슨 말이지 들이 저들은 나니 돌디는 거래 나야 저 디스는데 그 나오냐 봐다 되는 다 남시 되는 남시 돌아 뒤는 남시 되게 뭐 되나 그 남시 뭐 되나 다 남가는 차노래 요미가 가만히 봐요 다들 원미를 빠가지고 따와서 때는 패고 오르면이 롱을 빠가지는 보면 원미 따와 양념이 때문에 따와서 뛰는 파바들이 따다다 사치 독치들 맹망보다 그러는 생각 내력실들이 남카는 이 차대 요래 어떻게 그때서 남카를 가지 설계함이 파셔함이 데이터 뒤도 오늘 또 붙여들이 요 삼자 파죠 매매 삼자 요 라기 뒤지 마차 마당 또 먹네 지금 내가 뒤좀 선거요래 저 요사자서 대해들이 박차요요래 차담은 가리래 차담이가 박차요요래 박차마야가 탈을 선거요래 제가 진짜다디는 지송은 산청선만 원을 토바하는 메시 이 산청선 토좀 토는 갈 토르만 주사로 진짜 토마잖아 오, 진짜 요즘에 나야 요즘에 나오냐 반응이 하고서 나서 다 내가 그 또마 이제 통로 다 매바 통로 다 탐지 들이 터고요. 토바야 매를 반 토바죠. 그 토바 매바된 나 매바도 터도 그 세번 받아서 통로 그 세번 내려오면 애들 또면 그 고대 주탑에 세번 놓으면 나와 센터 타지 세미 또말 타지 되는 동들을 또뭐 레이스함을 놓으세요. 말이서를 놓으세요. 이제 바다 타와도 대범에 따라 되는 바바를 저기 양면서 하고 누가 되는 너는 이제 토바야 메시 토가 마토바야 메시 뒤에 마토바야 메시 세번 이렇게 토바들이 동상계 토비를 해서 네 책이 저거를 해서
So then he explains each of the aggregates, for example, the aggregate of feeling and so forth, and then like sounds, sights, sounds, smells, taste, touches. We think that these really exist. They do not actually exist. But when we say all of these do not exist, and you might think that, well, that's kind of a stupid thing to say of the Buddha, because I mean, I do have eyes, I do have ears, I do have a mouth. How can you say it doesn't exist? For example, if I ring this bell, you think that, yes, there is this sound. There is the sound. So this feeling arises. But now, a moment later, where is the sound? It has gone. You can't get the sound. You can't find where really is the sound. You can't get the sound. So that is the empty nature of all sense perceptions. So what this is to say is that we should neither think it exists, it is there, nor should we think that it's not there. It's something that cannot be labeled in any way or identified. Do not grasp at it as being either existing or non-existing. The moment we grasp at the existence of things, we begin to attach to pleasant things and have an aversion against unpleasant things. So do not become attached, have no aversion. Just stay in the pure state of your mind, no matter what sense perception arises. Because the moment you become attached, you are placing an imprint in the mind. When aversion arises, you're placing an imprint into the mind. And the subtle counterparts to attachment and aversion are hope and fear. These all place imprints into the mind. And as it is said in the Samantabhadra prayer, gradually those imprints grow stronger and thicker. So we keep placing imprints into our mind, and then like a rainbow, they will reflect, so they will project as our experience. So when saying that these things are empty, it means that they do not inherently exist. So all the sounds and just the sights and so on that you perceive, you think it's really there, like a shape, a body is really there. But where is the body really? Later, after we have died, the body will be just discarded or it will be burned. Then where is the body? You should investigate yourself in this way until you cannot find an I, a self. So then finally, you're left with nothing but the mind. Then you think that's what you are the mind. And so this perception of me all comes down to this self-grasping, this belief in the existence of an I. And that perception is the perception of the ordinary consciousness. So everything comes down to your consciousness. So that's the final thing to look at. And when you look at the essence of your consciousness, it becomes just like space. And within space, neither exists nor does it not exist. And the way it is resolved according to the scriptures, for example, is through the view of the middle way, the Madhyamaka. According to the path of experience and practice, this view is resolved through the practices of Mahamudra or Dzogchen and so on. It's given different names, but all it is about is just the nature of your mind. When you understand the nature of your mind, you see your space-like nature. Also, this is explained in the Samantabhadra prayer. Space is beyond birth and death. It doesn't arise and it doesn't cease to be. So this is in order to realize just that, and that there's this space-like nature of the mind. So you should let it all be. Let be these thoughts of a true existence of things, but also let be these thoughts of things do not really exist. Do not attach and have no aversion. Just let the mind be natural, and you will see the nature of the mind. And the moment you begin to develop thoughts of something exists, you think that's how it is, or that's not how it is, or attachment and aversion arise, you're already placing an imprint into the mind. So this is a method not to place an imprint into your mind. Then later in the text it says, so for the bodhisattvas, there is no attainment and there is no non-attainment. So if you say that I have attained bodhicitta, and actually you have attained nothing. A bodhisattva has attained nothing. There's no attainment. But also, basically, a bodhisattva has lost self-clinging, has lost the I. So there is no attainment. But it's not that there is no attainment either. By having lost the I, they have attained emptiness or selflessness. So there is, in fact, great attainment, although there is nothing whatsoever that is actually gained or attained. So the I does not gain anything, but what is gained is the space-like nature of the mind. And that is gained when you realize the true nature of the mind. So as we mentioned before, you must resolve first that appearances are the mind, and then that mind itself is emptiness. But then when you realize mind as emptiness, there is no need to think that it is empty or to think that it is not. Be free without any thought, without any grasping in your mind. So this is the way according to the practice lineage of blessings. And in this way, you attain that which is unattainable. When you realize Mahamudra, everything is in fact attained. So these words are important.
걔네들이 지갑에 바로서만 니라 애들이 새로 드바미죠. 딱밤이 바시들 오래 쳐대들이 양인이 되면 다선도 송 뒤에 강에 생황 내lok들아 계시 얼마다 시험이 와다다 무슨 법반냐면이라 좀다 좀 밑세왕이지 생콜 계시 얼마다 류 계시들이 이제 뒤에서 뭐가 송으더니 코비 장소 류인 코와게 류 셔그죠 내다 바차죠 레다 바차도 좋아할 때는 들이 다다 내가 미미미상 사카는 무속상나 들이 저게 거한테 sem나보다 단지 좀 맞다가 봤더니 차단을 레소를 집 바차도 동에 미용고요래 스그레사 들이 바차 받는 그 생비 그 저기 홀로 딱 봐도 배 대스페가 별로 뭐서 뒤 탁바들이 내 가리 지금 대 빠져노 카바드 좀 카바드 가지 장난 카바드 생이 빼지 봐요 대 아예 빠져 대차로 대사 노아를 좀 유무 뭐 저든 노아를 줘서 제 양자 촬영을 뒤 박차 대리 박차 마차로 타도 다 때문에 저 쪼다다 대서 세번 내려 됐다고 또라 락 때문에 박차대 가기 좋고 나디 저도 나디 야는 나 박차대 코타대 나를 나오냐 봐 내가 이 뭐를 진핑을 놓아서 저거를 저거 상대 진핑 설명종 진핑을 놓아서 선도 싸워서 저거를 그래서 다냐면 당시 세대 선초 추강자 거래변은 그래서 단 노화를 두고 농내요나 농내때 선거들 똑같이 차들 뒤 쳐도고요 그러는 이 소소된 빈강답을 차대요 이거는 라는 뭐 똑바로 돼지 다고 빼대는 아니면 동그리에 들이다 자자도 맞아봐 시성만 차당을 해서 그요 뭐 차당을 해마서 신을 박차고 그러면 박차가지고 때려 상대지 그래서 다들 따라는 타치나 검도 봐도 검은 건 역시 들 제비 시합으로 돼 시합이 그래서 누구만 남도 털터셔는 대만데 손들이 다 장마존에 뒤집도 잡았다고 장마장 차는 sem장마디 성질이 sem은 이메와 sem장마 차리다 이메와 하고요 나와 삼절한 거 sem지 사진 신기요라는 거 sem리도 라는 sem지 최고라고 그래 비하고는 내력도 집앞으로 매서 그 제일들이 시랍에 바로서 봤대 sem은 내력시 막 코나리 들리지 말고 제 공급가 농당 선거요래 들리지 마게 제발하는 sem은 내력 고아요 하고요 제가 당하게 띠바도 하고요래 야 제일들이 제 좋고요 뭐도 제 좋고요 그때 다음에 라는 냥이 냥수 용거래 뭔말 냥용도 제가 어때도 또 말이야 냥용도 가래 상부 저는 말을 해준 유무가 가래 깨어도 돼 소화 가르치도 되시는 제시 봐요 되거든요 라니 섭주면은 송바다들 그냥 돌나 강지 쫄람 째서 있잖아 라는 셈도 내가 들라지 나도 셈도 똑바 차서 마도 따라들이 셈도 딱 봐서 그래 똑바로 이제 인피를 놓아서 쳐다 버려 인피를 놓아서 이제 돈이 하고 그래 돈이 필요하다 나이 님도 상태 돈이 그 tamse to mani ma hakon de je mtabare to mani hakon 랑 세분 내로 나진 이제 마다 핑바 요만 레서 안 요래 동네에 또 나진 님도 상관들이 남치 이시를 보서 남치 이시를 보서 저거 이 시절은 남간에 도만이 요래 망고라 요래 자다 요래 세분 대사들이 잡았던 게 싫은데 즉성 시합도 받아서 마다 하고 이시 마시는 이시 남치 이시를 보되 남치 이시 제발 강을 그랬다 남치 나진이 요리 서로 나바탕 이시 내도 좋아하시는 게 남치 사만 남치래지 이시 남치라는 거 어떤데 이시라 보고 그래 이게 참도 사람은 나진이 매와 그랬더니 배라 다 하고 그러지.
So to bodhisattvas, there is no attainment and there is no non-attainment. And that is because they have attained the perfection of wisdom. And so then it says after that, so when they're, so having completely gone beyond falsity, they have reached the end nirvana, because there is no obstruction to the mind, there is no fear. So the mind, why is there no fears? Because the mind, they have realized that the mind transcends both birth and death. So they have realized that they cannot die. In the Vajrakilaya practice, it says, may the demon of the Lord of Death be overcome through realizing the immortality of the mind. So it is just the body that is bound to birth and death, but the mind never dies and is never born. Therefore, Lord Jigten Sumgen also says that what wanders in the ocean of samsara is the body. So it's the body that wanders in the ocean of samsara. And it's because we have accumulated karmic imprints that create this form, this physical form temporarily. So it is just like having frozen into ice. We have created karmic imprints, and so these lead to the existence of a body. And so the more we separate ourselves from the dualistic grasping of self and other, the more we are purifying these karmic imprints. So the more we purify karmic imprints, the more we liberate ourselves. So on the other hand, the more we grasp to the dualistic existence of self and other, the more imprints we are accumulating. And then these imprints are just like you are taking a film, you're filming something with a camera or with a phone, for example. And so what you're filming is all the various things that you do and think of is like creating this film, and then all of what you do and think of then leaves this imprint. So then the film is stored on the camera or on your phone, and then it can be replayed and it is projected as your experience. So whatever has been filmed, whatever picture you have taken, that is what will manifest. So the 6 afflictive emotions, they create the perception of the 6 realms of samsara. And so these imprints continue to manifest the more we accumulate them. So when we realize the nature of the mind, then these imprints become purified. So therefore, we need to understand how we place imprints in the mind. The imprints are placed into the mind through self-grasping, because there is this perception of me. And this is really ultimately what creates all these imprints in the mind. And therefore, the antidote to that is mainly the altruistic mind. In the 37 practices, it also says, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So when you cultivate an altruistic mind, then that it becomes like like a washing machine that cleanses the mind of all these imprints, all these impurities. So in the 6 realms of samsara, we experience only suffering, and these sufferings are like the stains in our mind that need to be washed away through practice and the altruistic mind. In fact, the 3 lower realms, we can see them just like a hospital, a necessary purification. So when you are ill with the afflictive emotions, they have to be healed, they have to be purified. When you understand, however, that these imprints in your mind, these afflictions, they do not inherently exist, then you will obviously no longer accumulate karma with attachment and aversion. And if you do not accumulate karma, you will not place any imprints into your mind. And if there are no more imprints in your mind, then you become a Buddha. And you have perfected the view. the perfection of the ultimate view is to be in an ongoing state of meditation, which is called non-meditation. There's no deliberate meditation day and night. And so that is gained by cultivating mindfulness. Mindfulness recognizes all the subtle afflictions and thoughts in the mind and purifies all these feelings that arise. And when the mind becomes completely pure, then you are a Buddha. So when you think that when you realize non-duality, and you will no longer develop dualistic thoughts, so the mind becomes pure. And that is when you realize that all appearances are nothing but your own mind. All perceptions are nothing but your own mind. So you realize that self and other are one. My mind is just like a crystal, and everything is reflected within it. When you realize the nature of the mind, there is no more thought of existence or non-existence. You have attained the perfection of wisdom. And you understand that everything arises from this nature of the mind, and everyone has this nature of the mind. So this is the nature of the perfection of wisdom, and it is in accordance, these words are in accordance with the actual words of the Buddha and the scriptures. And it is something that cannot be verbally expressed, but it's something that can be understood through experience. And so I can say these words because I have gained an understanding of the nature of the mind. And we can gain an understanding of the nature of the mind. It is just more difficult to really gain stability in sustaining this realization of the nature of mind. And so for that, we need to experience, we need to practice. So our practice must be infused with an actual experience. So we can understand that this is the nature of things and there is no self and other and so on. But we also need to actually experience that ourselves each and every day in order to gain this stability. So each and every day you should recognize all the thoughts and the emotions, the feelings arising in your mind with mindfulness and heedfulness. In the 37 practices, it also says, at all times, no matter what you do, always look at the state of your mind. And do not allow the mind to become polluted. So if you find that now a negative polluting thought has arisen in my mind, you must purify this thought through the water of altruism and an understanding of emptiness. Emptiness means to understand that self and other do not exist separately. And the emptiness of the universe and all sentient beings is to understand that everything compounded is impermanent by nature and does not inherently exist. So that is something you need to actually experience. So we might know all of that. We might know that the universe and all beings are empty, and there's no self and there's no other and so on. But in our own personal mind, if we still cannot let go of dualistic grasping, then all of this is of not much benefit. So ultimately, your own consciousness has to transform into primordial wisdom. And so this primordial wisdom, your primordial mind, is like space. It has always been there since primordial times. It will always be there in the future, and it is there now. It is that within the space expanse of primordial wisdom, all the Buddhas are one. So when you realize the perfection of wisdom, then you have actualized primordial awareness or consciousness. The dualistic consciousness has become primordial awareness, a primordial wisdom. So consciousness, again, is the mind that perceives duality. And it is your mind that sees self and other. It sees the outer various objects. It experiences happiness and suffering. It is aware of whatever happens. and that is your ordinary consciousness. And when you realize its true essence, then it becomes primordial wisdom. And primordial wisdom is the ultimate view that realizes that self and other do not exist.
타마르시바 진바송에 때까지 요래들 들이다 말에 송물에 파신 쪽으로 송물에 뉴모랑 상리과나 이시사와 로라메들 란기 시랍테 뉴모말 따오나 오 대히 뉴모마테 니마메마 동선을 다대 이시제레 다 남지 이시는 포데 니마처럼 남지 이시는 포소데 제말 요람 탐지를 전시되고 이제 이시리 유체에 바고 요래지 나로 같이 좀 내가 말해서 어때서 같이 머리 20m 정을 전부 매소야 저도 추치랍도 벌써什么大细哈可能就是你们嘛现在干这个嘛哦然后来啥了都那点没有过来家没有过来这不是没说咱们同年的送接送卡别送吧的这不是没说那个电话的东西差不多没有过来来从我啥呢这嘛没把来的少个了那这个啥个哟那这个啥那这些人民变了用吧全部的用两么的用我查刚见了用吧查的见了刚的那个小的这些无神说啊这些等了的呢哦这用我查没了这个人是我大哈过说的这个就多让他们你前面把呢这一些没大穷人根本没说人啊觉得这一些没有着这拉起不了这用他搞的我的不知道不么什么是什么就叫马扎没都用我来插挂没去这是我用过的咱们那个厂长掏出来没就是说就把它要买我掏了这生活的这些没有哈过我的这可能这些不怕的是吧哦大这些人啊这里当多接到个去吧这从这里用过的那么一些人破去吧的过来过的呢就这没办法过的那么多吵就那么多鸡毛他的起来不无心这吵没把当头这里怎么做的这个你们一些人觉得这到哈国说呢你们嘛跟老板们你们嘛做的哦你们搞这到这里是这到厕所上哈这所谓的这嘛是你们给是这些什么这里这把差价都做了这你们给是放松这这边的这让大家两面见你嘛我要上去做去这上的너는 시합도 팔아서 맞아 따와래 따가를 진실이라고 시합도 팔아서 맞아 얼마에 저 시합도 팔아서 맞아 인당민 유명하라 따오나 오 유명한 상을 받아야지 유명한 또 많이 봐 하고 저거 이시 오 새로 처음에 봐 다 유명한 좀 알았어 왜 유명한 무섭지 유명한 이시 시랑 매롱 따고 이시래지 뭐 사서 저도 이시 때문에你们那的性啊人家的说人的哈过他就这个人这他就想的把这什么东西吧这过出个人没我想不到把这什么这些家是吧上面养出东西都他妈的哈过我们这些家亲们我有的娘娘们这里我把娘娘的这个接送们来呗接送我今天现在这吃的还得给去不嘞哦你们让唱日关呢一些啥老了没事这吵架跑了他其实我老没这就么跑了到其实我老没说么来不送这让的什么大过男人听没什么这两面是大过有的这位知道的呢这大的当然这些刚是叫吵这大的来说
So to summarize the meaning of the perfection of wisdom, it is the realm, the sphere of primordial wisdom, of primordial awareness. And primordial awareness is something that you can understand, even on a smaller level. If you just engage in a little bit of practice, you can understand the meaning of primordial awareness. So what it is just your ordinary bare mind, your consciousness. That's all it is. Milarepa, when he gave a teaching on the 10 parameters, regarding the parameter of primordial awareness, he said that aside from identifying or kind of exposing the falsity, the falsehood of afflictive emotions, there is no other perfection of primordial awareness than that. So to expose the falsity of afflictive emotions through mindfulness, through clear awareness. When you look at the afflictive emotion with awareness, then you will render these afflictions powerless. And so that is how gradually the dualistic consciousness transforms into primordial awareness. So it's not that one day you suddenly have this experience of now my consciousness has transformed into primordial awareness, but it's an ongoing process of consciousness becoming primordial awareness. It will not happen all of a sudden one day, but it grows. Naropa said to the wisdom, the Kinin Guma, that, and these words are very important, that you have to nurture the little spark of mindfulness again and again until it becomes a large, a vast fire of awareness. And so when we do not recognize that, we will, when there is no mindfulness, then we will accumulate karma. And if we accumulate karma, we will experience suffering as a result. It will ripen. Also, Jetsun Kapam had said that this is the interdependence of things. The interdependence of things is unfailing and will ripen correspondingly, corresponding to what was accumulated. So temporarily, because we do not sustain mindfulness, we do not recognize how things really are, we experience all sorts of things, all sorts of emotions of happiness and sadness, and then driven by these, we accumulate much karma. But who is actually the one? We have to get to the one who actually accumulates karma. It is your consciousness. So you can practice by recognizing that consciousness. So when an afflictive emotion arises, whether it is strong or a very subtle emotion, even if it's just a very subtle emotion, recognize it with mindfulness. And the afflictive emotion, the feeling of that emotion will diminish if you sustain a state of clear awareness. Then you will gain an actual experience of how the entire feeling, this experience of the afflictive emotion completely disappears. And that is when you will feel, now I have understood. You have gained an experiential understanding. And that is an ongoing process. You have to experience this on an ongoing way. So the small spark of fire must be nurtured again and again until it becomes a vast wisdom fire. And then in the end, what happens is explained in this Amantabhadra prayer, where it says, even if the 3 realms were to be destroyed, there is no fear. There is no attachment to the 5 desirables of the senses. So if you have realized that, even if the whole world comes to an end, anyways, you will think each person has just this one life in this world, and then when we die, there's no more world. So if it comes to an end, it comes to an end, but the mind will never come to an end. The mind transcends birth and death. And when you have realized that, you have realized the perfection of wisdom. And also this is what we refer to as the Vajra-like body. You attain a Vajra-like body when the consciousness transforms into primordial awareness. And so it is something that, again, you have to experience on an ongoing basis. It will not happen at once, but it happens gradually on an ongoing basis. So the moment an afflictive emotion or just a thought arises in your mind, instantly recognize it with mindfulness and gain the direct experience of how clear awareness will eliminate the feeling that was created by this thought or emotion. And then the mind remains in a clear state. And that is what we call transforming the afflictive emotions into primordial awareness. Once you have understood that, the afflictive emotions, even if they arise, will no longer harm you in any way. In fact, they become an enhancement to your practice. They increase the power of your awareness. So this is how someone practices who really understands their secret mantra. And so we need to understand how imprints are placed in the mind. And if we continue to allow imprints to be placed into our mind, then awareness has lost to these afflictive emotions, and the afflictive emotions have gained victory. So there are many people of you who engage in practice. Some practice Mahamudra, some practice Dzogchen, but it's all the same meaning in the view of the perfection of wisdom. And essentially, it is mindfulness. There is no greater perfection of wisdom than mindfulness. When mindfulness encounters the afflictive emotions, then the falsity of the afflictive emotions will be exposed. And that means that you will directly see that the afflictive emotion is empty. It does not inherently exist. And if you can see that, then these emotions will not leave a feeling in your mind, because you will know that these are not real. These afflictions are not real. And none of these thoughts and afflictions is real. And when you realize that, then they become wisdom. For example, anger or hatred becomes the mirror-like wisdom, or attachment becomes the individually discriminating wisdom, and so on. The 5 afflictive emotions become the 5 wisdoms. And so you will gain certainty on the basis of your own personal experience. So that is really the essence of knowing the perfection of wisdom. And it can be applied to anything that you experience. So it is something that the key point is that you experience. So many people know how to explain the perfection of wisdom, but even if you know how to explain it well, it does not necessarily mean that you are liberated from suffering. So explanation is one thing, but Milarepa says that meditation or practice must be infused by an actual experience. You have to experience it. So these words are very important. So Milarepa said, when teaching the 10 paramitas, he said that aside from exposing the falsity of the afflictive emotions, there is no other perfection of primordial awareness than that. And he said that also aside from practicing virtue in whatever you do, there is no other perfection of method than that. And then he said, aside from defeating the 4 maras, there is no other perfection of power than that. And so these words of Milarepa are important, and you should keep them in mind at all times, the day and night, and really gain your own personal experience in this practice. So with that, Dharma friends, I have explained the Heart Sutra to the best of my abilities. Tashi Delek.
That's it. You want to teach what you know. Kangi Malaya be Numo Yichi, Mina Doctor long the Japan song. There is also around 7 year long Tong Tong, Matong Soso Dagori. Shenka mean don't check the Jasa million just to be maybe China. Tawa told Maton Numa was checked away on my TV, Tata, Doctor long the Japan song, Tang Hako, Numo that you see the dollar, Tara, Tato Chogari, Three children many to one in Betty, percent not already, each is married or Jimarica song at that. Tatit in young like 13 jungle, joking. You see that not all that young was somewhere. She up not all that young was outside of Sakari, make a chance that young or Betty. Three touch direction. Ragatawa Rangi Chivu Gorita. Sunny summer battle rang dogore, rang chico dogore, or Ragatawa Rangi Chu, or Sasam Jamata, me, Tayongore, or doubling Sagan Torso, the Kayamaris. There was our younger age.
And just one last and final word. It's quite important and for my Dharma friends. And so that is, Milarepa also had said, is when you realize that afflictive emotions and primordial awareness are no different, you have mastered what is to be realized. You have to gain a direct experience in seeing the nature of your mind. And so it is just like, for example, when wood meets with fire, then you know then with 100% certainty that the wood will turn into fire. So fire really is inherent within the wood. There is no wood that doesn't turn into fire when met with fire. And so similarly, when met with awareness or wisdom awareness, then the afflictive emotion becomes just that. And you have to gain certainty in that fact. And when you gain certainty in that there is no other afflictive emotion, or no other awareness than the afflictive emotion, they're one, just like fire and wood, you have ultimately, you have mastered the final reaches of realization. So this is what you gain a personal experience in. And so this is what I myself have experienced when, as Milarepa had said, fire meets with wood, wood turns into fire. And likewise, when wisdom awareness meets with the thoughts, the afflictions, they turn into awareness themselves. But this is something to train in. So you need to use these afflictions and these thoughts to enhance the power of your awareness, to train your awareness. And this is also how it is termed in the Dzogchen teachings. We use thoughts to train in the power of our own awareness. And so thoughts then enhance the power of one's own awareness. It's just like wood, the more wood there is, the greater the fire will become. So it is something that you have to personally experience, so you really trust in your own personal experience, because later on, after you have died and go into the bardo, you have to go on alone. I'm alone in the bardo. And if I have gained confidence in this view, if I have resolved this, then as it was said in the Samantabhadra prayer, even if the 3 rams were to be destroyed, there is no fear. Even if the world comes to an end, it will be nothing. It will be nothing to your mind. So Dashidele.
Oh, so in Betty, Tajakara, Dashidele, Siba, long,
so everyone who joined on the live stream, very much and long life.
Dashidele Rinpoche,
Maki, Jiba, Nava, Meba, Komne, Kom the Peo, Siba, yo.
Thank you, Rinpoche. That's precious teaching. So this Heart Sutra teaching, Buddha Shakyamuni shared 2,500 years ago. So Buddha Shakyamuni went into the known-door samadhi meditation. So Chinreze recognized the Buddha Shakyamuni's known-door samadhi. And today we have this opportunity to hearing this teaching from Rinpoche. So we are really fortunate because Rinpoche is realized is same as Buddha Shakyamuni into Samadhi meditation. So then his body embodiment right now, we seeing form is the same as Chinrezig. His form is love and the compassion form body, Chinrezig. So he shared directly this teaching for us today. So we are really fortunate and receiving this precious teaching from Rinpoche. Thank you very much, Rinpoche. Long life, Tashi Dele. Very happy to see Rinpoche today. Is when we see you, it's like shining and amazing. So Rinpoche's age is younger than before. So looks like right now is we seeing you are like teenager, like 16-year Bodhisattva's form body. Thanks Rinpoche, long life. And also then today, so this teaching organized by Digong Dharma Surya and Kon, Amanda worked very hard, put this teaching together. And then we have many Zoom organizers, Susu and Ufam, and they have many groups. So thank you very much, everyone. And then today in this teaching, we have a Digong Dharma Surya Center, Gardruma Buddhist Center, and Garchi Meditation Center in Canada. So these all sanghas every day coming together and join practice together, organized by Zone organized by Debe and Mary from Ohio and Canada, Measure and Maryland and Digong Dharma Surya Amanda. They all every day they bring sanghas together and practice together. Appreciate everyone. Thank you very much. And so then today, specifically this organizer, Zone group, also are going to appreciate it. Thank you very much. And then thank you to Kon and Amanda. So work very hard for this practice teaching. Thank you. Tashi Dele, long life Rinpoche.
Pola, it's a Zoom bodhicitta for all. We have many volunteers who have helped us. So thank you so much for allowing us
Thanks
the
everyone,
opportunity.
Bodhicitta group. So Kon going to say some words after here. Kon. You are mute, Kon.
Okay. Okay, you heard that?
Yes.
I would like to thank you to everyone for participating. I know everyone in different countries in Europe and Asia, almost I count as almost 20 countries from different time zones. So we also thank you for attending the teaching and also for your support for DDSC. I think Kempo already covered everything. The only thing I would say, one thing, I know Garchen Rinpoche has already left, but I would say one thing here from the bottom of my heart is that Garchen Rinpoche love all of us very much. He never stopped loving us. Okay, so I hope that today the teachings only last 1.5 hours. However, it's my prayer that this Heart Sutra teaching will stay in your heart, will stay in your mind, and last lie after lie until each one of us attain enlightenment for the benefits of all others. So that being said, we were working to with our Vietnamese Zoom organizer and everyone to have the recorded teaching available and will be uploaded to the DDC channel YouTube for everyone to contemplate and study again and again. So thank you very much for all your participation, for all your patience. We have a lot of some challenge difficulties, but we do the best we can to ensure that this practice, the teaching is available for everyone. Okay, thank you.
So now also I'm going to share some information. We in the Digong Dharma Surya, the next 1 month, the Khenpo Tozang, he's going to lead the Kanjo text, reading in the Kanjo text in the Digon Dharma Sriya. So Kanjo text is the whole Buddha's teaching. We have 100 volumes. So Garchen Rinpoche, he offered the Kanjo text to a Digon Dharma Sriya. He asked, if possible, chant whole text 1 year once. So it takes a really long time, 3 months, 4 months for one person going to read the whole thing. So the reason is he wanted to do that in Digon Dharma Sriya is in the, its capital and Washington, D.C. So especially for the world peace and for something, good things for in the world. So that reason he wanted to chant that text in the Digon Dharma Sriya. We try to chant whole text, but it's really hard going to finish it. It's usually in Tibet, like many readers come together, chant monthly. So one person cannot finish the whole thing, but in the major text, in the Kanjo text has a special 16 volumes. So that volume is Khenpo Tozang, he's going to chant and during his stay in the Digon Dharma Sriya. So unfortunately, this all text is Tibetan, so you cannot really join the reading together. But you have another opportunity to offering donations and also welcome, and so it's good for you can just make connections to this reading and the chanting practice. So that teaching, this Kanjo text reading is a long life for holy beings, especially our Guru Garchen Rinpoche, and his long life, is remove his life obstacle, benefit more other beings, stay with us a long time for sharing his teaching. So that's also the point for important interest. So we're going to have this, try to have every year, at least, if not going to finish 100 volumes, but we're going to try to finish 16 volumes. If we cannot finish 60 volumes, they have another choice is 12 volumes. So 12 volumes is a must finish. Then go up to 16, then you can go to another, 16, then you can finish it there. Then you cannot go up, is 100, you cannot stop there. You can stop 12 or 60 and 100. So it's up to him how long he's going to go to 12 or 60. Thank you for coming to DDSC and doing this chanting Kanjo reading. Tashi Delek. Tashi Delek or Sangha. Thank you.
Love you all.
Thank you, Khenpo.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much,
Thank you,
Pauline, for
Khenpo.
hosting.
Thank you, Tashi Delek.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tashi Delek.
and everybody.